Hello everyone, welcome to the Kevin Lee Social. Thank you for tuning in. What initially began as an 8-part series interviewing entrepreneurs to share and inspire how they've successfully pivoted during COVID-19, I have decided not only to continue this series, but also to expand on the scope to understand and learn about people's craft, philosophy, the challenges they face in the industry, and their favorite failures that have helped shape them to become who they are today. By going deeper and understanding different thought leaders, businesses, and industries, the idea is to help cross-pollinate ideas applicable in your life and inspire action in this new norm we live in. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Before we get on with the show, today's podcast is sponsored by Altitude Tea. Altitude Tea specializes in rare and exotic teas you can't find on supermarket shelves. Teas grown on high altitudes are more nutrient-dense due to the cold nights and misty peaks that slows the growth of the tea plant, leading to a higher concentration of aromatic oils and richer flavors. They are located in Waterloo and they do private tea ceremonies where you can learn how to drink tea mindfully using a traditional gongfu set and have over 20 varieties of tea to choose from. For our listeners, you can use the code BEYOND at checkout for 15% off. Today we have Maria Graterol. She is a digital artist with a background in architecture and lighting design. Her artwork explores the connectivity between emotions and interactive elements such as motion sensors and music. Originally from Venezuela, she moved to Buenos Aires in 2015, Argentina, before immigrating to Australia around 2018. As an immigrant with 2 significant moves in such a short period, Graterol uses art as a medium of expression and therapy to express her emotions and experiences. Now, based in Melbourne, she's developing ways to express and connect with emotions and experiment with new emerging technologies. She investigates abstract shapes that can evoke emotions and connect with human experiences. She specializes in real-time rendering software such as Touchdesigner, but also Notch and Cable.Gl to build her digital pieces. Her artworks have been exhibited globally, and her designs are consistently shared among the online digital communities. Everyone, please help me welcome Maria. Hi Maria, how are you today, my friend?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you. Just finished work, running straight into this. Thank you for taking the time out on a Sunday for this recording. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
I've been a big fan of your work since I've seen your work online and part of the HQ group. And since following you, I thought I'd really love to interview yourself, Maria, one day to learn all about what you do and all your experience and inspirations as well.
Thank you.
So, Maria, let's begin with your personal journey. I understand in most of your bios you've moved from Venezuela. You're originally from Venezuela, and then you moved from Venezuela to Argentina, and then all the way across the world to Australia now. If you can share a bit about that journey and how this has influenced your design work.
So yes, as you say, I was born and raised in Venezuela, and due to political reasons, I moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and after that I moved to Australia, and I changed. I'm an architect, and I work as a lighting designer back in Argentina. And when I moved here, I continued working as a lighting designer, but I started having more craving of having control over my creativity expression. So I started looking for ways to communicate what I was thinking. So I started the journey in the creativity part of design. And I thought at the beginning, I thought doing projection mapping was the way to communicate through light. So I started looking for software to do that. But I discovered Touchdesigner, and that gave me a bunch of different possibilities. So that was pretty interesting. And all these changes affect that I was going through a lot through those short periods of time. So it was also a way for me to take more control and also express my emotions of what I was going through in that period, all the changes. I will say that new media art keep me sane through that period. I was
And the move couldn't have been easy, as going from Venezuela to Argentina and then Australia. There's different culture backlashes and learning a new language and meeting new people, how has that transition been for you? Like, how long have you been in Australia now, for example?
I've been since 2018. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty different. Even from Venezuela to Argentina, like the cultural change, it was a big impact. It was pretty different. And moving to Australia, it was like more. The change was different, like bigger, because it's also a language. That's not like a barrier that is always there. And so trying to find the correct words to express what I'm thinking. So yeah.
Yeah. Hence why you were saying trying to express through your media art, your new media art mediums, learning to express through that. And similarly, I think so I didn't start my design journey till about 2 years ago during COVID. And it just came about because of this restaurant business, and we were offered a very large space. And I remember looking at the space they were offering it to us, and it was huge. And I thought, man, if we were to hire this place, even if you had really good food, really good drinks, really good vibe, I don't think I could fill this place because it's too large of a space. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I thought, but if we could do projection mapping and do through this whole space and make it very vivid and very different, maybe people will come to us and seek that space. So that's when I had the whole idea to get into projection mapping. And then, similar to you, fell into Touchdesigner as well, which is very simple. Yeah, simple and powerful. I'm nowhere near as good as you are. You're amazing.
No. You're also cool.
Thank you. And from your research, often your design work, they contain a lot of abstract shapes, some form of interactivity. And I love that. I always love the interactivity piece. I'm always curious, how do you, as a new media artist or multimedia artist, weave in connection and emotion? It's a tough one.
Yes. So try to start like every piece with, in a lot of cases, it's like with music. I have like connection with music. I found like there's a way of connect with my emotions through music. So in a lot of cases, I have a piece of music, or I have some words that I'm trying to express to my pieces. And I use a lot of geometries to do that. And what I found is like sometimes they mean something for me, and that's different for like other people, which I reckon that's like the magic of art or every type of expression. It's like sometimes what I'm trying to do or to say is pretty different of what people absorb on the other side. Or sometimes I don't feel anything, and that's also okay.
Yeah, I understand. It's funny how you mentioned music, because I was just going through the audio immersive chapter on on the HQ course, and for the past 2 days I've just been learning about immersive audio and like creating songs and emotion, and how much effort it requires. And so for your pieces, for example, how far do you go with music? Is it like, do you go as far as composing and producing it, or is it just looking for a particular music that you find a connection with and you wanted to express, or through the lyrics, or I just want to understand a bit more.
I would say in a lot of cases, I reckon music helped me to understand my own emotions, and I reckon that's a medium for a lot of people as well. Sometimes it's like a word in the music that makes me like a phrase that makes me, I want to try to express this feeling through like a piece. And sometimes it's the melody, because I also listen music in other language. And sometimes I'll have a connection with this, even though I don't understand the lyrics. So it's like the melody like evokes an emotion, and I'm trying to express that. I wish I could have like more knowledge in how to produce, but no, at the moment. But it's pretty interesting how music is a core of a lot of things.
Yes, I agree. I didn't know how much was involved until I was doing that course. And I was like, wow, audio engineering is crazy. These people are just spending all day outside just capturing with their microphones certain sounds and stringing together. And it was a bit crazy. But that's the beauty about certain immersive works, right? And a collaboration between different departments. Whereas us, we're just trying to a lot of times we're putting it together, whereas the bigger groups you can collaborate with a lot of different people. And what I wanted to touch on was geometry and interactivity. I've been following your journey, and it's through the stories to see you use the leap motion and connect, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool, Maria. And what's your idea, or what's your take on trying to create a more immersive experience with the interactivity piece or geometry?
Break on when I found Touchdesigner, and I was like, oh, I want to do projection mapping, like something like 2D kind of thing. And when I discovered that I could do that in a more immersive way and with motion sensors and a lot of other possibilities, I was like really in love. So I started getting really into understanding how those works. And even sometimes it's something as simple as like the other day I was playing with rendering the shape of my hand through the leap motion, changing it to like geometries. And it was like pretty simple, but it can be quite interesting to take off something as everybody has the idea of a hand and how it looks a hand or a shape. And if you change it, like an instancing of that to a geometry, it's going to evoke something different. So I found like magic in that, kind of.
It is magic. When I watch it, that's so cool.
It looks like magic, but it's not that. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, to certain people, I think it's very cool. Anyway, I love that you delve into so many different emerging technologies. Since we connected, you were saying you love looking at different things and you're constantly experimenting. I've seen your work, you use like from Notch to Cable.Gl. As we talked about before, Leap Motion connects Unreal Engine, your background in lighting, point clouds, audio activity, projection mapping. What are some of your favorites that you are working on at the moment, or the medium that you love playing with the most, or the combination of certain mediums?
All of them. I'm really interested in learning as much as I can. And something that is pretty base is like the use of real-time rendering. In the software, a lot of the ones that I use are real-time. I would say like my core is Touchdesigner. I always go back to that one, and it gives you a lot of possibilities to connection with audio, with sensors, and also to connect with Notch. For example, I love Notch. The possibilities, and it's with a few operators, you get something beautiful, like quite easily. So I love Notch as well. But at the same time, you can connect Notch with Touchdesigner because you can export it as a block and unlock some elements and manipulate through another different software, for example, from Unreal. So I will say that I orbit through Touchdesigner mostly because it gives you the possibility of integrate all of the spectrum of my interest, which is with the external elements as lighting or projection, but the same with using music, like other softwares with music, working with the possibility of connect Touchdesigner with Unreal and Notch. And so I will say that will be my core. But I love learning new things, so I'm trying to all the time playing with different applications. So
yeah. I agree with you. I do love how flexible Touchdesigner is, as well as the real-time rendering, because I've also tried to play around with like Unity or even Houdini. Like Houdini is like more 3D post-rendering. Yeah. And my God.
No, Houdini and Touchdesigner are the same, at the kind of the core is the same.
Yeah. But to render in Houdini takes forever. It's like I had to get another computer just to render it, and even that's super slow. And then you have to start paying for rendering farms if you wanna render it in time. So the real time rendering and the speed of Touchdesigner is unmatched.
It's amazing, yeah. But one of the creators or the developers of Houdini is one of the creators of Touchdesigner, so they're like the same core. So that's pretty cool. I found that like the base is similar.
Yeah. No, I had no idea. The other thing through you I found out about was Cables.Gl. I didn't even know that existed. And then I was like, I gotta check this out. When I saw it on the website, I was like, wow, these are all web integrated based interactivity. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like plug and play.
I've got to check. I got to play around a little bit more about that. But I took a rough overview, and I was like, "Wow, this is powerful, man! This is very powerful. Like for interactivity, real time. It's pretty cool."
Yeah, and for websites, like the integration is so easy. They get more, and it's pretty similar to Touchdesigner, so it's node based as well. So
Yeah.
it's quite easy to get your head around.
Let's have a quick chat about project designing. As an artist, what is your workflow like? Do you originally start off with an idea or to an external to a paid gig, say for example yourself? If you it's like, how do you explore different ideas, or what's your process of getting started? Do you get inspired by a certain thing or a certain feature and then you go along with that and start to explore and create something? Or do you start off with, like you said, maybe a piece of music composition or certain emotion or certain word that you want to express, and then work backwards and think about, okay, how do I express this as best I can?
So it will be, as you say on your question, I have like different process. It depends of what I'm trying to do. Sometimes I have an emotion and it's like, oh, okay, I want to do this and I want to try to express this emotion in this way. So I create like the concept from the emotion in that way. But sometimes it's like, I want to play with lip motion and I want to play with particles and lip motion. So that wouldn't say like a conceptualization, but it's more like an exploration of elements. And I also say 50% of the time, what I have after a process is a piece that I'm not happy with it. But it was like also part of the process. That happens a lot. Oh, I want to do this, and in my head it's, oh, it's going to be amazing. And I finish the idea, and it's like, that's not my thing. And sometimes I post. Sometimes I don't mind and post it in Instagram either way, but because it's okay, it's part of the journey. But yeah, sometimes it's not a happy ending, but when it's for me, it's okay. That's okay.
I love that you regularly ship off your pieces. Like I said, you're always executing, you're always trying different things, and you're just sharing it.
Yes.
And it's, like you said, it doesn't always turn out the way you want it to be, or maybe it's not completely finished, but you're continually developing and you're always creating and sharing. So that's part of the process, part of the journey, and you're always learning new things so that for eventually when you need to build something and add it together, you're better equipped to do it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're my inspiration when I look on your Instagram. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to try something like that. I'm going to try to do something similar. And let's go to collaboration. Do you do many collaboration work pieces? Great.
Yeah.
And for someone who is looking into getting into collaboration as an artist, what do you suggest, or what are some tips to collaborate with different designers?
I would say that approach somebody that it has like similar to you, and maybe in the same way of journey. And sometimes it's not, even if they have doing different mediums as a musician and art, I would say approach people that you want to work with. And if they say no, that's okay. But I found that collaboration unveil like different spectrum of artistic expression. I have worked with other like medium, like a new media artists or generative art artists, but I also work with a few musicians. So that is pretty interesting to work with the different elements and trying to put it together, and that both are happy. It's doing a mock-up of our possible client as well. I found it, but better because you don't have a budget, so you're like experimenting, or you don't have a deadline, so you're like playing with it. But I would say like people should approach like, oh, I want to work with you, and there's always there.
Yeah. Is that something you've done before? Like just message somebody on Instagram or something that's like, hey, I love what you do. I'd love to collaborate. Would you be open to something like this? Is that the script?
I have done it. Yes. I did it with a Mexican artist. And I was like, we were chatting for a while. And I was like, oh, we should collaborate. And he's, yes, let's do it. We started a piece.
Awesome. I'm gonna maybe one day I'm gonna message you, Maria.
Yeah, let's
We should-
collab.
we can collab. Help me out at the restaurant trying to put this together, this immersive experience.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm also curious, in your eyes, in your opinion, what do you personally look for in new media art when you come across it on Instagram or on something like that? I know visually, obviously, is one piece, but is there certain elements that you look for? I just want to see artwork through your lens.
Do you mean in other people, what I'm looking for? I was trying to find like people that is doing new things, like experimentation, and because I like new media, so I like when people is doing like interactivity. But also, I really enjoy looking through different mediums, like people doing. I follow a lot of Houdini people, so they're not doing real time, but they're doing beautiful things. And I reckon I'm trying to find people that inspire me as well. And I want to do that, or I wish I can go to that level. I also a lot of people that doing like working with coding, with shaders. I found that pretty interesting. I'm trying to dig a little bit more in that, but it's another world.
Yeah. I'm with you. But the thing with me is that I'm a lot on the side of I wish I could do that. Oh wow, that's so cool. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, but I reckon that there's a point. It's like, I can't. I can't figure out how to do that or how to tweak it. That
Yes.
I reckon that it's achievable. It's there. Somebody did it before. I can do it.
I did a course in Max MSP before, so a bit of creative coding. And we got time to do the homework and the projects, and there's all this node-based coding, and then get to the end, I'm like, oh my god, all of that just to do this, and it looks so basic, and because of it's like your skill level is here, which is where I'm in my hands are showing low, and then when you look at other people's artwork, you're like, oh my god,
They're
that's so
like-
far away.
Yes, it's like the DLSO. How sometimes I see like people doing like walls only in shaders, and it's wow. And I'm doing like little particles.
But you know what? I think that's why I'm attracted to your work so much, because I have a thing for fluid particles. I just love the way they move and the way they look. And it's just when I see something, it's very mesmerizing to me and I feel relaxed. It's it's therapy to me, particles.
I love particles. Sometimes people is like, oh, do you only do particles? I'm like, yes, I love them. Don't mess with my particles. No,
Don't mess with my particles. You don't know how strong these particles are.
they are super strong. But yeah, I'm glad that you like them.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's go into... I'd like to get your thoughts on AI art and NFTs. What are your thoughts on how this will impact your work or the industry?
That's a tricky one. But I think to keep really open to new things, because we have been talking about this. We love new technology. We love new developments and new things. Everything is part of our core. So I'm really open to the new technologies. And I experiment with AI, like Midjourney. And I have seen there's a bunch at the moment, like DALL-E, Midjourney. I love it. I reckon it's like a tool. And it's going to help a lot of artists. I don't use it like a part of my art at the moment, but I have been using it as to create like mood boards, to create inspirational pieces. So I think it's an amazing tool. I reckon there's a lot of mixed feelings at the moment, because I reckon historically humans have a prone of being reject new things, and there's a lot of there's a lot of bias in AI as well, because of course the prompt, how we feel the AI is how it's going to respond. So I know there's a lot of things to improve, but I reckon it's also important that if a lot of artists get evolve and help to evolve that, it will be pretty rich in the future. So I reckon, yeah, I'm pretty open to this technology. Or for me, it's like a tool. I'm trying to keep open, and maybe in a few years I will say, no, I was wrong. It was a disaster. I don't know what is going to become. So, but at the moment, I reckon it's an amazing, and I have been playing with it. I found it pretty interesting. And with NFTs, I have seen how a lot of Latin American artists have made a living of NFTs. So I reckon the switch of power to artists, it was pretty good with NFTs. I'm not talking like people like being millionaire of NFT. I'm talking like people making a living and having more power over their art. So I found that pretty like inspiring and pretty good for a lot of artists. So I don't have bad things to say about NFTs. I'm pretty open to that. I know there also is like a lot of shading things with NFTs, but at the same time, with fine art, there's a lot of bad things in the behind the scenes. I think the good thing is that it can give more power to the artists in that case. I will say that's my...
Maybe I'll start with the AI part. I also find this whole space very interesting with Midjourney. I've played around a bit with Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion now is blowing up. And that's become open source. That is open source. So you have so many different platforms incorporating it. Even I think Canva just released that they've incorporated a Stable Diffusion into their template building, which is incredible as well. And TikTok basing a very mild version of it as well. And so it's becoming more and more mainstream. I'm just curious to see how this will play out for a lot of the artists. And like yourself, I think when I speak to other artists, a lot of them similarly are using it to create like mood boards or inspiration, because it's just so quick, right? You can just do whatever you want and then bam, it's there. But to actually use it as an art piece, personally, I think it's still challenging there, because obviously anyone can create something similar and just it's a prompt and it spits out. But I've been playing around a little bit of using a couple of prompts, fluid particles in DALL-E, rendered in Houdini, punch it out, and then I'd get that, and then I'd create like a little story and then feed it through Unity or through and post-process it through Touchdesigner to create something a little bit cool. And just having a bit of fun in that sense. And I do think that the NFT scene is here to stay. I think the technology really is there, as you said, to empower people like artists. And I think that's a great thing. I know it's having a tough time at the moment.
Yeah, but I agree on like the economy in general.
Everyone's having a tough time at the moment. Really. Hopefully, on the upswing, things will change a bit more, and people will gain more confidence in the technology and don't... I think the whole cryptocurrency and the whole NFT thing is too closely tied together. Yeah. And it's based off crypto, the actual currency, but it's not tied into that. It's a way of transfer. It's a different thing, I find. And we're still kind of in it. I know things have changed, but with what's happened over the past 2 years and being the COVID-19 pandemic, how did it impact you? How were you managing your projects or maneuvering around this challenge?
So because I'm also new to this new media, so I started to working with it in 2020. So I just started when the pandemic was hitting. So I wasn't affected in project like all my projects, because I didn't have proper projects. I was more experimentation. But I would say that in that time, I was using my time to get my skills. So I really use that time to get like a better skills or to study more. And I also say it keep me busy during that time and keep me like focused in something. So it was really like a tool of giving me sanity over that time of not having control in a lot of things. So I was like, okay, I'll study this and I'll work more with Touchdesigner or Python, and I start experimenting more in that time. In that moment, I was also trying to apply to like residencies or working with it. And so I would say that it didn't affect my work, but it was a tool for me to go through the pandemic. I would say that.
I'm the same. As in, I started in 2020 as well.
We're like the same.
Yeah, but you're so much better than I am. That's the difference. But yes, it was part of my sanity as well. We were in lockdowns, and I think Melbourne was in lockdown for one of the longest staying periods in the world.
It was the city with more of lockdown.
And Sydney was tough, but Melbourne was even more tough. Yeah, I can imagine having this as your kind of gateway to a different world or a different exploration. It would have helped so much.
Yes, I reckon it put my feet on the floor, and also it's you have control over these at least.
Oh yeah, that's right. So at least I can do my own thing.
Exactly.
Maria, anyone that comes across your page can see your work has been featured in many spaces. Like I've seen some of your pieces featured in Japan and 80 different screens or something like that. As an artist, I'm sure it hasn't always been this way. I've even seen so many of your stories and your posts being shared by all these amazing artists and other pages. And I'm like, oh wow, they shared your work. That's incredible. And did you have a favorite failure that had set you up for later success? It doesn't have to be success in the word success, but just being put out there as a new media artist.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a favorite, and a history of failure, but I will say that something that makes me keep going was to make peace with rejection and with receiving like a different, like not negative feedback, but receiving like rejection, and making peace with that helps me to keep going, because the beginning can be pretty hard you can be hard with yourself. About getting like a lot of rejection over applications or getting a grant or getting a job, and sometimes it's not about you or it's not about your skill. It's sometimes the people making those choices have a different idea. So I think that helped me go through. Okay, it's not all about me. It's not because my skill is not perfect, even though in some cases I'm sure that I was applying for something that I didn't have like the skills, but at the same time that helped me to get or to learn what they were asking for. It was like, okay, they're asking for this type of experience, so I get better in this experience, or I take the time to continue and learn more and train myself more, but at the same time don't stop doing application because I was receiving rejection. So I reckon that's super important to people that is out there studying. It's like, you'll get rejected, but that's okay. Keep going.
That's a great way to look at it, looking at rejection as a understanding further of what they're asking. I think that's a great reframe that you've said. Maria, do you have any tips for people who want to get into the whole new media art space?
My tips would be like to check what they want to do or to find for reference out there. I found that a lot of people is pretty open in new media. I found the community is extremely open and extremely welcoming to newcomers. So I'll say, like, if you are new, approach people that you like their art and reach to them. Or I received like a few like DMs on Instagram, and I'm really open to tell them. If they ask me, oh, how do you do that? I'm like, yeah, you can go here and learn to do it here. I reckon that's pretty nice of the community, that everybody's willing to help. And also there's a lot of tutorials out there. So I'll always recommend like a few channels are to go, or the word might to go at the beginning. So I'm like, yeah, if you want to learn more Touchdesigner and go to this channel, or I'll say that. Found like people that you find interesting and approach them. And now, of course, you're not going to receive like an answer of everybody, but I reckon people is pretty welcoming and they're going to try to help you.
I do believe that you're right. It is true. A lot of the people in the community are very helpful, like yourself. Very open to conversation. It's I think that's a very positive thing in this community, and it helps growth, right? Because as more people get into it and more people grow, then new pieces can get created, there's new inspiration and more to share around.
Yeah, I love the community. It's pretty amazing.
So, Maria, we're reaching towards the tail end of our conversation, and there's a couple of questions I always ask all my guests. Let's first start off with, are you excited about any upcoming projects later this year or even in 2023?
At the end of the year, I'm going to have a residency in artist district in Melbourne, so to develop a project. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully everything goes, because it's like experimentation and getting like the project done, like for the performance. And in 2023, I have a plan. Like I have a project with a musician. I don't know how much can I talk about it, but the idea is to have she's going to write music for a piece. Normally in audio reactivity, you have a piece of music and you create something from that to probably express the piece of the intent of the music through art. And the idea is to have a reverse engineering to do like a piece that create the emotion to write the music, and at the same time that's going to like retro element, like a retrofit, I don't know how to say, the piece. So the idea is to have a kind of cycle of the music, and like the art through the music, and the music also responding to the art. It's going to be like an exploration, so I'm pretty excited about that one. Hopefully.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting how it reacts off each other, from music to art back to music as well.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about those two at the moment.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you produce out of that residency and your 2023 project with the musician. I'll be keeping an eye out on your Instagram.
Thank you.
Maria, do you have a favorite book you'd recommend, or a movie?
I will recommend a movie that I've always recommend to a lot of my friends. It's called Heartbeat by Xavier Dolan. He's a director that I really like. And I recommend to a lot of my friends that movie just because the music and the direction is amazing. The colors, like the aesthetic is beautiful. So I would say that's my to-go of recommendation.
Is it an American movie? Or
It's a French movie, but because he's from Canada, so he's the French speaker part of Canada.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
I've never heard of it. I'll definitely have to check it out. I love watching movies, so I've got some time this evening even. Maybe I can find it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And the music is amazing, and the photography, so.
Are there any new beliefs or behaviors that have had a positive impact in your life in the recent years?
So I try to keep positive through exercise and meditation. I try to do meditation at least 10 minutes a day. But something that is keep me positive, and I haven't done it for a while, is to try to see the city with like newcomers' eyes. So I'm trying to do this practice of when you arrive to a new place that you haven't gone before, everything is shiny, and you pay attention to all the details of the city. So you found everything amusing. So I'm trying to do that in my daily life. Even if every day I use the same street to go to my job or coming back, I try to have an eye open of the details and trying to see everything as I'm a tourist. And I found pretty interesting, like new things. So I think that keep me really positive. And I found that every day is not as like a repetitive, I'm doing this every day. I'm walking. And also you try to now use your phone if you do that, which is hard sometimes, but it's okay. Let's listen to a podcast or listen to music and walk, and trying to have an eye open. And I found that really make a positive impact in my life. So maybe try one day. Very
I
fun.
love that, Maria. I love that you're trying to look at the day and the world in a different eye and perspective, different lens. I have one way that I try that with a little trick that I do that I reframe, but I'm curious to hear yours first. For example, how would you like? I know the words you use were, for example, as a tourist with an open mind and you look for something different with a new lens. How do you actually do that? Is there a questioning process in your mind, or you're just looking around? How do you look at life at a different lens? Is my question.
I would say I try to look from different perspectives, like the city, because sometimes you walk like only going forward or looking like into the front. But if you have that, look for different angles as well, that kind of unveil different things. And sometimes you found, oh, this house has this red window that I never saw it before. It's like trying to look for different angles. And in my case, because I'm pretty tied to music, I try to listen to music. So it's put me in a different mood. Like, so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm listening to this. I'm trying to, and even sometimes it's like looking at people in the streets, oh, the behavior of people with things. So that's how I try to keep my lenses. But also, sometimes it's like walking in a different street back home. Instead of the one that I use every day, oh, okay, let's walk through this different landway. And you find something different out there. That's my way of doing it.
I'm just busily writing all these down so I can give it a go.
Yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting thought. And I'll tell you my one. So the way I try to look differently at any scenario is I pose myself, because in the mind, whenever you ask a question, it answers, right? And so I would ask my own mind, what don't you see? Or what don't you hear? If you're listening to something, or if you're looking at something, or what don't you smell? So whatever it is that you're trying to take in, use one sense. And if you're looking at something in particular, say you're looking at one part of your room and you go, what don't you see? Automatically, my eyes will just hone in and find something that I haven't seen before.
Oh, I'll try that.
I don't know if it's just me or...
It's a different way, but I love it. Try to use it again.
You can try that. Yeah, if you walk to a place you've always been before and you just look at that same scene and you're like, what don't I see today? And then you look around and you're like, oh, I didn't see that crack in the wall, or that I didn't notice, I didn't realize that was the color green before. It's funny how when you pose that question, the framework just shoots and your mind starts looking for it.
That's pretty interesting. I'll start doing it.
But I do like your ones as well, like looking at different angles. I haven't thought about that one before. So different angles, walking different ways as well. I'm quite methodical. I love walking the same way, so it's good to shift things and move around.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you like really aware of your surroundings. And it's hard to take off your hands off the phone, but it's good to do it sometimes.
Maria, do you have any particular morning or evening routines that you follow?
Yeah, I have a routine. So I wake up every day and I go to the gym. I do Pilates and I come back to my house and do meditation. And after that, I have my breakfast. And I try to, in that period, at least don't look at my phone. So that's my morning routine. So I'm like, have a curfew of phone use. So I would say that's my routine. And after work, I normally study like a few hours. So working my art and my pieces. But my routine is mostly in the morning. I'm a pretty morning person at the moment.
Yeah. I'm also I'm big on meditation as well. So I'm just curious to ask, is there a particular style of meditation that you follow, or what kind of meditation do you do, for example?
I use an application, so I'm not that enlightened to do it by myself. I need to use like guide meditation. So I use Calm. So I used to use Headspace, but lately I found like Calm pretty useful, so I'm using that at the moment. Do you do it by yourself?
I'm actually a meditation teacher.
That's
I do.
cool.
I guide.
You're
classes
enlightened.
on.
I'm
No,
not.
I'm not enlightened. I just do a combination of different types. But since you're on the whole app space, you should try, if you haven't already, the app called Waking Up by Sam Harris.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Check that out. It's I think Calm and Headspace are great to start off and use. But I think if you want to dive a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, try Waking
I'm
Up by
going to
Sam
write
Harris.
it up. What's the name?
It's called Waking Up by
Waking
Sam
Up.
Harris. Yeah, SamHarris, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I found it. Thank you.
No.
So has a book.
Yes. He's got books. He's got his own podcast. He's quite out there. He's quite popular.
Thank you.
If you could only send one single line of SMS text to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
I would say to myself that things will get weirder and really different, but like keep going and keep learning. I would say that keep going and keep learning. That's important.
Yes, I can definitely see that in your lifestyle and your work.
I'm curious about what would you send to yourself?
You know what? I've never thought about it. Actually, I asked everyone this question. I haven't even asked myself that question. What would I send to myself 5 years ago? 5 years ago would be what? We're in 2022 now. We're 2017. Oh man, I made so many mistakes in 2017. I made many mistakes. I think if I was to be brutally honest, I think one of the ones is face your issues. face your issues head on. I think I was covering things too much at that point. I was like, oh, I can solve this issue later, and I wasn't facing them head on. And I think if I had the balls to just go, nah, I need to work this out now, then I think I would have been in a much better position. But
that's good. I was curious. Sorry.
Okay, Maria, have we left anything out that you wanted to share at all or touch on?
No, I wouldn't say that. Just if people out there that wants to chat with me, I'm open to chat.
Great.
You have questions?
And that actually links to the next one, is how could people reach out or learn more about you?
I'm pretty active in Instagram and Twitter as well, but also through my website. So I would say those are my main point of connection. But I'm definitely living in Instagram.
I'll make sure I'll put it in the show notes for everyone to share. Maria, it's been so great connecting with you. I thought finally I had the chance to chat with you and learn more about what you do, and I feel like I've connected with you more as a friend as well. I can't wait for the future to see your work as well as a possible collaboration.
Yes,
maybe.
Of course.
Thank you again for your time, Maria. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me and for giving me the opportunity. It's lovely to meet you. Real life.
This is as real as it gets during COVID.
Exactly. We're in like real time.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled KEVINLY. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.